Hey, family and friends, I want to thank you for coming in for another episode called Who is Watching the Flock? And let me say something that might make most of you feel uncomfortable, and that's okay because that's what the truth does. It makes us feel uncomfortable. See, the church has never been more visible and never more disconnected, family and friends. We have pastors with blue check marks like God cares about those little blue dots and blue checks, and He doesn't. Pastors with security teams, which I understand because we live in an evil world. We even have pastors that are too important to answer a quick message. Too busy to sit with the broken and lost and ask how their day were or how they slept at night. They are too booked up to notice who hasn't even been there in 3 weeks. And see, somewhere in all that visibility, family and friends, the flock got lost. And that's where this episode came from. It came from watching this with my own eyes. I've seen a lot of flocks be ignored. I watch people cry in silence right in front of the pastors. Watching members slip out the back door unnoticed. Watching wounded souls get handed to a program instead of a prayer. And I had to ask myself this question. When did shepherds start acting like celebrities? When did calling become clout? When did influence become more important than intimacy, family? See, because a shepherd's job was never to build a brand, not when I was growing up or reading the Bible. What they were due and their calling was to guard their flock. It was to know their names. It was to leave the 99 for the one. But I want to ask this question. How do you lead the 99 when you don't even know who the one is? See, some pastors are so focused on platforms, they forgot the pasture. So busy being seen, they stopped seeing. They have been so focused on growing the church, they stopped growing the people. And here's the hard truth that a lot of people are scared to say. A full building, family and friends, doesn't mean a healthy flock. A loud sermon doesn't mean quiet souls aren't breaking. And being busy for God does not mean you're faithful to what He asked you to do. This isn't about tearing down pastors, I promise. It's about waking them up. Because if the shepherd forgets the flock scatter. And see, if everyone is watching the pastor who's watching the flock, let's talk about it. I want to make this clear. I have nothing against the church, I promise. I have nothing against pastors. I love them. I honor real shepherds. The only issue isn't with the pulpit, it's with how far we've drifted from it. See, a lot of people don't first fall in love with a church, they fall in love with how a pastor/shepherd makes them feel. It's like choosing a doctor. If you got a heart specialist who saved your life, you don't want the substitute. If they're out, you reschedule. Why? Because you trust him. And see, the church can feel the same way. You connect with the voice, the delivery. The way the message hits your story, it feels personal. And let's take it a step further. Because when it feels personal, you don't just want to hear him preach, you want to shake his hand. You want him to look you in the eye. You want him to pray for you. You want him to tell him things you wouldn't even tell anybody else, even your closest friend or family member. You want to ask questions, family and friends, you're scared to ask out loud. Why? Because you trust him. And I want to make something real clear. As a shepherd, as a pastor, this is what you're called to watch over, the flock. And scripture tells us that. In Acts chapter 20, verse 28, tells leaders to keep watch over yourselves and all the flock. In 1 Peter 5:2, it says to shepherd the flock of God that is among you. That means they're not just there to preach. They're also there to protect, to guide, to pray, and to present. See, for everyone in that room who needs covering, not just the front row, not just the big givers, not just the visible, it means everyone. And if you cannot do what you're called to do, if you cannot watch over the flock, if you cannot be accountable, if you cannot be available as Scripture is required, then you are not called to hold that position. And I'm sorry to say that. Because this isn't a platform. It is a responsibility. This isn't influence. It's stewardship. And if the shepherd won't guard the sheep, then who is watching the flock? And let me say something that might challenge some of you, a majority of you who are listening to this episode right now. If the shepherd can't do what he's called to do because he's drowning in responsibility, that's not humility, that's unhealthy. And see, when the church gets too big for one man to carry, Scriptures don't just say try harder, it says get help. In Exodus chapter 18, Moses was wearing himself out trying to lead alone. And Jethro told him plain, what are you doing is not good. Not sinful, not lazy, just not good. Because you can't carry a nation by yourself, family and friends. And then in the Acts of the Apostle chapter 6, the church began to grow rapidly. And the apostle said, we can't neglect prayer and the word to handle everything else. So they appointed others. They didn't cling to control, they created structure. And what Paul told Titus in this epistle, in Titus 1:5, to appoint elders in every town. Notice, elders. It means plural. Because God never designed shepherds to bleed out alone. Sometimes the reason a vision is suffering isn't that God didn't call you. It's because you're trying to do a team assignment by yourself. And pride can disguise itself as responsibility. See, if the weight is crushing you, it might not mean you're weak. It just might mean it's time to build. Even Jesus had 12. And I do want to make something clear before anything is misread. I am not judging anyone. I'm not trying to control anybody's choices. I promise you that. If you go to church, good. I did. If you don't, that's your decision. That was my decision. And see, what I want people to know is this. It's okay to wrestle. It is okay to have questions. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay not to say everything's out loud. You're not alone. And if you don't feel safe telling people how you really feel, if you're smiling in public but struggling in private, if you're sitting in church every Sunday but battling doubt, maybe this is the place where you don't have to pretend. Maybe I'm saying what you've been too afraid to say. And I'm not here to push you. I'm here to stand with you, right beside you, holding your hand. If you're at a loss for words, remember, someone understands. He never ignored the broken, even when people wanted him gone. He didn't even surround himself with barriers so nobody could get close. No bodyguards, no distance. He was just presence, just sacrifice. He walked among the crowd, touched the wounded, and carried the weight of people others avoided, family and friends. And the disciples, they didn't chase platforms, they carried responsibility. But now, let me say what many won't say in today's world. Everyone wants to lead the flock, but who is watching it? Who is protecting the hearts behind the numbers? Who is praying over the people instead of performing for them? We built stages, families, and friends where shepherds once stood. We replaced accountability with applause. And when someone cries out, too many voices say good luck with that one, instead of stepping into the mess. See, Jesus didn't shepherd from a distance. He didn't brand his compassion. He didn't filter his love through comfort or convenience. So if we claim to follow him, the question isn't just who's preaching, it's who's watching the flock when the cameras turns off. Because a real shepherd doesn't just gather people. A real shepherd also guards them. And maybe the hardest truth today is this: the flock is still looking for someone who cares more about their souls than their spotlight. Even on the cross, he was still watching the flock, family. While nails held his hands and the crowd mocked his name, his focus was still on people. He forgave those who hurt him. He comforted the thief beside him. He made sure his mother would be cared for. In the middle of all the imaginable pain, Jesus didn't even stop being a shepherd. So let me ask you, if he, God, Jesus Christ, could still see others while carrying a cross, what are we missing while carrying far less? See, today many watch platforms, titles, and opinions, but who is watching the hearts? Who is standing guard when faith grows weak, when doubt gets loud? When someone feels invisible, a crowded room? Because the cross wasn't just a sacrifice, family and friends, it was proof that real leadership stays present, even in suffering. See, real shepherds don't disappear when things get heavy. They don't abandon the flock when it stops being easy. Even on the cross, Jesus showed us what it means to watch over people to the very end. And see, maybe that's the question I need to leave hanging in the air. If he never stops watching us, who is watching the flock now? The flock is bleeding, friends. The flock is tired. The flock is smiling on Sunday and unraveling by Wednesday. The flock is raising their hands in worship while fighting depression and silence. The flock is serving, giving, showing up, but secretly wondering if anyone sees how heavy it really is. The flock is still out there. Single mothers praying over empty bank accounts, fathers fighting the shame they don't talk about. Teenagers are even drowning in comparison. Men are addicted by pretending they're fine. Women carrying trauma that no one ever addressed. See, the flock is searching for hope. The flock is crying in bathrooms so no one sees them. The flock is asking questions they're afraid to say out loud, and sometimes the loudest thing in their life is silence. See, if he never stopped watching us, who is watching the flock now? Who sees the quiet one slipping away? Who notices the worship got softer? Who sees the attendance drop as asked why instead of judging? Who sees the exhaustion behind a smile because the flock doesn't need more noise? They just need to be seen. They don't need another viral clip. They need someone who knows their name. They don't need perfection. They need protection. They don't need hype. They need healing. And here's the truth that hits hard. People surround some of the flock and still feel completely alone. Hope is still here, people, because the shepherds never lost sight of his sheep. Not one. Not the wandering one. Not the doubting one. Not the falling one. Not the one hanging by a thread. And the reason why renewal is still possible is because renewal happens when someone notices. When someone checks in, when someone prays, when someone refuses to let a sheep drift without pursuit. Renewal happens when love becomes personal again, family and friends. So I want to leave it here. If he never stopped watching us, if he never stopped pursuing us, if he never stopped calling us by name, then who is watching the flock now? Because the flock is not statistics. The flock is your brother, your sister, your child, your friend, maybe even you. And if you're part of the flock tonight, hear this clearly: you are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not too far gone. The shepherd still sees you. And where he sees, he restores. Hope is still breathing. And renewal is still possible, even for the sheep who feel lost right now. I want to thank you for tuning in. This is called Who is Watching the Flock on the Hope and Renewal Podcast.